As the Liberal Party struggles in the polls against the Labor government and the rise of Pauline Hanson's One Nation, the Liberal Party faithful are rallying in support of the major party in Queensland. Joining me live now is Courier Mail columnist and wine and travel editor Des Houghton. Des, thank you so much for your time on this Saturday morning. Tell me about this event that was held in Brisbane.
Oh, hi, Julia. Yes, this was a four-day love-in of the Conservatives. The main part of it for me was a testimonial dinner for Peter Dutton, and that was attended by John Howard, who I thought was turned up as a bit of a elder statesman ornament to the whole thing, but he was fantastic. John Howard spoke brilliantly, and he slapped Pauline Hanson down very cleverly, and he gave us his impressions of the Liberal Party going back to the Menzies years. What struck me was he said he doesn't care about descriptors like monocultural or multicultural. He said Australia just opened its doors to the world and these people just started to come and it works. He said he doesn't know why, but it works. And he said if we're worried about wondering where we come from, he said we're not. And he did something very clever. He said, we've got a Premier, Chris Afuli, and he said he didn't come from the Scottish Highlands. And he said, we have another person called Leah Fiano Chiaro in the Northern Territory, who's got a musical Italian name. And, of course, Peter Malinauskas from South Australia has Baltic origins. And let's not forget Glaris Berejiklian, whose parents were Armenian. So he's just making the point that we are a nation comfortable with all these people that come from overseas.
Queensland just did something nobody saw coming. It made Angus Taylor more popular than the actual Prime Minister. Yeah, you heard that right. Grab a coffee because we're unpacking a wild few days in Aussie politics. And honestly, it's got everything. A rally, a reality check, and a bit of a leadership plot twist. Smash that subscribe button now because Australian Daily Insider drops videos like this multiple times a day, and you do not want to miss the next one. So here's the scene. Brisbane. A Conservative rally packed with Liberal heavyweights, Peter Dutton in the mix, and the man himself, John Howard, stepping up to the mic like he never left. And what does he do? He doesn't attack anyone by name. He doesn't have to. He just starts listing off successful Australians with names that sound like a United Nations roll call, gently making the point that multiculturalism isn't a talking point here, it's just Tuesday. It was less a speech and more a masterclass in saying a lot without saying much at all, and everyone in that room knew exactly who the message was aimed at.
You get the sense in that press club speech that Pauline Hanson delivered not that long ago that potentially an area that the other parties are going to exploit in the lead up to the next election is around the attitude when it comes to workers. What did you make of that?
Workers, in what sense? The coming for work or those that don't want to work?
Well, Pauline Hanson was making those comments about how employers are doing it really tough and how maybe some of the rights that employees are given at the moment should be pulled back. It seems like that's something that the Labor government's going to really target moving forward. Where's the opportunity for the Liberal Party in that sense?
Well, who knows how they're going to define their policies further. But I must say, Angus Taylor spoke and he covered some of this ground, but he did say, and I must say, Angus Taylor wasn't the same Angus Taylor I see on television in a 5-second grab. He was authoritative and he was funny and he's a very clever fellow and he spoke across a broad range of stuff. I can't remember what he said about specifically about employers, but he spoke very well.
Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. One Nation. Because while Howard was busy quietly torching the nationalist playbook, One Nation's been pushing this idea that Aussie workers have it too easy and employers are the ones really struggling. I'm sorry, what? Try telling that to someone paying rent in Brisbane right now. Which brings us to problem number 2, and this is where it gets spicy. One Nation's polling bump in Queensland isn't actually new support. It's basically borrowed support. The Greens have slid from the mid-teens down to around 11%, and a chunk of that disillusioned vote just wandered over to Hanson's camp instead. That's not a movement, that's musical chairs at a very disappointing party. Speaking of parties, let's pivot to the real headline. Angus Taylor is currently leading Anthony Albanese as preferred PM in Queensland. Let that sink in for a second. And Howard didn't ignore it either. He basically gave Taylor a nod of approval over One Nation, which sends a pretty clear signal. The Liberals want to be seen as the serious Conservative option, not the angry uncle at Christmas dinner option.
Well, a lot has been said about how Angus Taylor isn't translating. We heard even from that midwinter ball, which, you know, the press gallery attends in Canberra, that, you know, the jokes that he delivered in a speech did not land. He's not very self-deprecating. Why is he struggling to have that human appeal?
Who knows? But some people like you, Julia, are more comfortable in front of a TV camera than others, and people get better as they go along with this. I'm sure Angus Taylor has great skills. He spoke very well, and he spoke something he said that really struck a chord with me. He said young people are even putting off having families and starting families. They're putting off having children because they can't afford a house and they can't afford rent. In my own city in Brisbane, rents are now over $700 a week. That's extraordinary. I mean, the Labor government has just mucked it up completely with the last budget.
But here's the thing nobody's fixing. Housing. Rents in Brisbane are pushing past $700 a week. Young Australians are putting off having kids because they can't afford a spare bedroom, let alone a house. And while everyone's arguing about culture wars and who said what at a rally, that number just keeps climbing in the background like background music nobody asked for.
We've also seen the editor-at-large of The Australian, Paul Kelly, writing a lot about this topic that we're discussing right now too, writing today that the modern Liberal Party is facing a crisis of conviction and that this began with the turbulence of the Abbott-Turnbull-Morrison era. Do you think those leaders are to blame for the demise of the party?
Yes, I think reading between the lines in Paul's piece, which is an extract from his book, I think a lot of the blame of this with people like Scott Morrison, Dutton, even John Howard, is, Turnbull. Malcolm Turnbull turned out to be a bit of a wrecking ball for them, and he has dumped on them ever since he got pushed out.
And we've heard you written as well that David Crisafulli is a bit of a political energiser bunny. What's impressed you so much about the Queensland leader?
He's just unstoppable. His sleeves rolled up. He came into the room with his wife, Tegan, beautiful wife, Tegan. She told me they'd been childhood sweethearts since they were together at Ingham. And he was mobbed like a bloody rock star. I couldn't believe it. People just wanted to get close to him and say hello to him. He almost, got more attention than Peter Dutton and his wife, Tegan, who were the stars of the show.
He's certainly energetic, and he does have that media background too. Anyway, Des, we'll leave it there and we'll speak to you very soon. Thank you so much.
All the best.
Now let's zoom out to the bigger picture, party history, because you can't talk Liberal Party dynamics without mentioning the Abbott-Turnbull-Morrison era, which honestly played out like a soap opera with worse ratings. Leadership spills, backstabbing, public trust nosediving, that instability didn't just hurt the party, it left scars that are still shaping how voters see Conservative politics today. Which is exactly why David Crisafulli is turning heads right now. Queensland's leader is out here with actual energy, actual charisma, connecting with people instead of just reading off talking points. And in a political landscape scarred by years of infighting, that kind of steady, upbeat presence stands out like sunshine after a decade of storms. So here's where we land. You've got Howard quietly schooling the nationalists, One Nation stealing votes instead of building a movement, Taylor unexpectedly topping the polls, housing quietly becoming the real election battleground, and Crisafulli rising as the new face people actually want to watch. Queensland isn't just a state anymore, it's basically the preview trailer for the next federal election. If this breakdown made you go, wait, I didn't know that, you know what to do. Hit subscribe, because this channel is where Aussie politics actually makes sense without the spin. Drop a comment and tell me who you think wins Queensland next election, because honestly, I think even the polls are confused right now. See you in the next one.